Hello, nice to meet you. I'm Nicholas Meebane. I'm here to present the Dansko case study. Just to let you know, I am sick, so I have a stuffy nose. If you have any problem hearing me, I'm sorry. So a little bit of background info. The business, Dansko, was started by Amanda Cabot and her husband as a mom and pop operation. It started when Amanda went over somewhere overseas, and they found out about the Danish shoe. While they were over there, they were able to secure a deal with the distributor and to secure the deal with the manufacturer, and so that they could be a distributor here in the United States at the farm they currently owned at the time. The product they're going to be serving is a Danish shoe. It's a wide variety of footwear. It's built on more comfort. It was a European style that was really popular in the late 90s to early 2000s. Still popular now through new things like uh, Crocs is kind of the new version of this. So they were jumping into that market at an early time where there was a big demand for that. So you see over there, I say the industry and market when it was growing at the time, and everyone wanted a different pair of shoe for different occasions. So if you had a business occasion, you need a business shoe, and as for this market, you needed a comfort shoe, which was the Danish clog at the time. So a little bit about the timeline. It started in 1982. Amanda and her husband, they bought a farm. Right after her recent divorce, she moved in with her new husband, and they bought this farm and where they served as the equestrians. They helped raise horses for the Olympic team. And from there, they continue to grow. And on that farm is where they started Dansko. So in 1990, in Dansko was created. They took all the stuff they learned from working on that farm, and they created Dansko with the hope of having this comfort shoe. They expanded to new markets around 1992. 1992 from to 1996 was their main first growth period, where they were getting into markets like medical and retail, people who are standing on their feet a lot. In 1997, we see they sell the Five Star Farm because they're seeing this huge growth in Dansko, and they needed to really focus and lock in on just this one aspect of business. From 1997 to 2004, they experienced another huge growth, because the huge growth of the comfort shoe. 2004, they reached over 85 million in revenue. I have listed later in one of the exhibits that shows their upward chart showing of how much their revenue was increasing per year. And then in 2004, I listed right here higher mark deal. I thought this was pretty important to the timeline of events because it showed kind of the growth and expectations of now we needed to change from a mom and pop shop to maybe a full-fledged company that hires more industry professionals. 2005 is how the case study ends off, and that's going to be the offer for the merger with the company was going to be somewhere up to $1 billion. So this company was offering a merger, and she was worried about whether she should take this, or whether that would affect her company's culture, which I'll get into a little bit later. So the case summary, like we said right here, Amanda Cabot, she was the person who started this Danish shoe company. It's built on morals, sustainability, and community. A big aspect of this case study was around thinking about how it's going to affect our workers, or how we can be good, how they can be a good and sustainable company. As the company grows, we see they start reaching, like I said, 85 million in revenue. They realize they need to start worrying about how we're gonna continue to grow sustainably without knowing all these huge new things that we might need to know. Finances change a lot when you reach those huge market caps. So that's why she needed to start thinking a little bit more about what the future is going to look like. All right, so on to the key issues and developments you're going to identify from the case study. The main ones were the rise in manufacturing costs in Europe. So at the time, the euro was rising relative to the dollar, and that was making the prices of getting these shoes over to the US very difficult. And also, at the time, the manufacturer she was working with had go on to tell her that they in Denmark, where they were working, that they didn't want to have a rapid growth. U.S. companies have a lot of rapid growth type companies, and that wasn't something they were looking for. So it was also that type of issue in the background. In terms of lack of expertise in industry, so they didn't have a lot of anything other than the homeschool talent they were growing. I mentioned that a little bit earlier that they were focused on being a community first team that was focused on mainly just helping out all the people that work with them, helping them grow up to be the best people they can be. So they were taking people right out of high school rather than getting college grads or getting super 10 to 15-year industry professionals and help them grow. But when they reached that huge size, they were struggling to do all those things that they might need. And then I said nonsensical hierarchy. At the time, one of the issues they had run into is Amanda was getting all the run over with all these information. So many people were coming to her with their issues, and they needed a little bit of a change to try to fix that up. So a little bit about Dansko's performance. They were a pretty successful company. Like I said, gross sales rose rapidly up to around 90 million from 1991 to 2004, which is great. You start to see big net profit. So they had 110 employees and over 3,500 retail stores they were working with. They had solid market share directly with the Euro Comfort shoe. They expanded outward to do things like heels, to do heels, sneakers. So they weren't only focused on that clog, their main shoe. They started to also work on other things. And you saw that clog back on a few slides ago. So a little bit about Dansko's strategy. It was a pretty straightforward strategy to grow slowly. It said in the article, it said 10 to 15%. They were focused on long-term stability over rapid growth. So a little bit of what goes on in that is just focusing on making a great product. So they were really big on getting this product out to the consumer, and then they were taking the feedback they were getting to try to fix it. So if they launched a product and it wasn't as successful, or if they launched something that was really successful, they were taking feedback on it to try to make sure they were getting the best product out to their consumer. And because they were doing that, they also were able to put a pretty high price for at the time, late 1990s, they were offering the shoe for $100, which is a premium price for a shoe at that time. But they were able to do that because they were working directly with people who had the money to buy for that type of product. So their margin was around 50 to 60%, which was really good for Dansko. They were able to be profitable. Though they weren't focused on profit, they weren't focused on the bottom line. They were able to continue to grow as we see. So why because they weren't so focused on that, they were able to be pretty dynamic in growing their company. So they were targeting the right markets, making just asking, well, is this where we want to go? And then like I said, a major aspect of Dansko is a commitment to their workforce. Like I said, most of their people working there are gonna be homebound. They got them right out of high school where they're working here for years altogether. So it's a lot different than a big corporate structure where people are coming in and out, high turnover. This is a family, is how she words it in the article. She looks at all the people who are working underneath her. Amanda does as her kids, as she would say. So a little bit about how their strategy looked in action. Right here on the left, I listed a chart. This was the chart that was listed from Exhibit 6 in the article. It just shows what their new um, uh, organizational hierarchy looked like after Mark Howe came in. At first, it was like I said, Amanda was getting overrun with so many questions, and people were coming to her, and they were realizing they didn't have enough expertise, so they had to break up the structure just a little bit. But you can still see here that it's not a straightforward down hierarchy. It's a little bit looser where they're a little bit dynamic where they're able to come in together as a senior management team to come together on decisions. But Amanda still has that final say, so it's not going to be as stressful as her owner, but she can still oversee everything that's going on without having to micromanage. Because as you grow, you don't want to have to do that. So we said so here we're about to see how the strategy was in action. A big thing was the company never took on leverage positions. So because they never took on leverage positions, they were never in crazy debt, so they never really had to come back. So the growth was always slow and steady. They took the money they made and they put it right back into their product. So if they were making this amount of money, we're going to use this on marketing. We're going to use this on developing a new type of shoe that's going to be good for the market. They weren't worried about, like we said, rapid growth or building new factories. They did build some, but only to make sure they were maintaining the growth they were getting. So they were slowly building up factories or slowly getting on to new retail locations. So they weren't focused on trying to get everything at once. They supported workers, committed to charity, and kept loose organizational hierarchy, like I listed here. Just by being supportive for workers, and they sent them out on charity missions. They helped them out with college, helped them out with things like credit card debt, anything that they might need. They're working together as a team. It showed just exactly what their company culture was. Their corporate culture was really tight knit, so it was really important to keep that in mind whenever they were doing anything, whether it's going to be anything business related. And then, like I listed below, was a pretty important quote that she learned from another business person she was talking to, who was also in the shoe industry. Said, "Don't try to be everything to everybody." That was really important for her when she was starting up. A lot of her strategy was focused on being gourmet. So she was offering her shoes that the Danish shoes that they were trying to get out there, offering to a specific market that they were focused on, rather than trying to be too widespread where they couldn't, where they could get a great big amount of profit, but where they couldn't focus directly on their consumer as much as they want to if they're too widespread. All right, so this just brings us down to our recommendations. So my recommendation would be to not go through with the merger for a billion dollar company, and instead implement these three that I listed below. Just to give you a little background, I would say not to go with this merger. I really think the merger isn't exactly what she would be looking for, regardless. Um, she lists and talks so much about company culture and how much she's not focused on profit, and how a lot of this is just about putting forth a good product. So with her focusing on that, I don't think the money or the huge jump in and falling under somebody where there's a chance her corporate culture would be taken away. All these people she's been working with for so many years. I think the company is really Dansko's really focused on just being what they are, keep growing stably. And with these three things I listed below, I think she can continue to do that with her company. So the first one I said hire industry professionals, which she already started to do when she hired Mark Deal, to help her with the finances. So to continue to have a good mix of experts and homegrown talent. Homegrown talent are going to be the ones who, like, they're already fastly loyal to the company. So have those people that are there to give ideas, and they really understand what it means to be a part of Dansko. And the industry experts can really help to continue that steady growth, where it doesn't have to be super crazy fast, but they're understanding maybe we need to make this move here. Um, they had done their first marketing campaign under Mark Deal when he got there in 2004. So that was all come from her hiring this industry expert to help her. By hiring him, she was able to finally understand, okay, maybe this type of product, doing this type of thing might help us out a little bit. Now that we're $100 million in revenue, so we continue to grow a little steadily. The second recommendation I have is to move manufacturing. It's always, I mean, nowadays we know now that it's going to be cheaper in East Asia, Latin America. um, we know that for certain, but at that time, maybe it was a little bit of a difficult change to make. But I think it was important for her, if they want to continue to grow, is to move their company over to East Asia and Latin America, where they can lower their costs dramatically and continue to have that slow, steady growth. I also listed below that the Danish manufacturer, like you said, they didn't want to grow too rapidly. Weren't um, big proponents of the American culture where the companies grow rapidly, and that's not what they wanted for themselves. So if they're not going to be able to keep up, you have to be able to have a place that you can go to where they can meet the demand you might need. Even if it's not going to be rapid, you want to be able to meet as much demand as possible, to not allow any supply, or not to allow any of the market to fall out of your wayside. And the final thing I listed recommendation is just to continue to stay true to the workforce. The workforce is what's got them there. It's a big part of their corporate culture, and the company wouldn't be what it is without that corporate culture. Um, so I would say just continue to offer good benefits and pensions and maintain good relationships. And that's my presentation for the Dansko case study. Thank you.